All right, ladies and gentlemen. So as we're moving along here through the revolution, we're hit the last little bit of the third stage and talk about our homeboy, very, very short man. Well, not really as short, but still, Napoleon Bonaparte. Kind of funny, this guy wasn't even actually a French guy. He was Corsican, from a small island of Corsica, a guy who supported the French Revolution from day one, wanted to be a big part of the French Revolution, was actually kicked out of Corsica for fear he would bring French Revolution ideals to Corsica. But he's a guy who hung out with all these guys and worked with the early Revolution from very, very on. His rise of power comes to the military, honestly, when you think about it. What happened was he was a guy who supported the revolutionaries, pro the Jacobins and the Girondists in the army. And when the royalists tipped over, they quote unquote gave him a whiff of grape shot. They said he was a guy who was an artillery man, brilliant military conqueror, a career guy. And when the Directory takes over and they start making these wars going forward, they give Napoleon an army in Italy. It's okay, here, go take over Italy and go conquer. So he got an army. He goes and he crosses the Alps. Kind of there's these ideas of Hannibal and of Charlemagne. He's kind of equated that way out to being those great kings. He goes in and he conquers northern Italy for France and takes that whole big chunk over and really gets this taste for governing. He becomes more of it. When he finishes conquering Italy, he moves to fix all his problems that have been there. I mean, we talk about Italy much lately, but it was very much still very old school. Italy was backwards this time. I mean, it was old religious problems. It was serfdom. It was noble privilege. He waltzes right in and takes care of his problem, puts down his old ideas, instead instituting new ideas instead. After he conquers Italy, instead then he goes to Egypt as part of the Egyptian campaign for France, where he's fighting against the British who control that part of Africa, and he was defeated at the Battle of the Nile by by the British Navy. Admiral Horatio Nelson destroys the French fleet. He's kind of screwed. Napoleon actually ends up, fighting in Cairo by the pyramids, the Battle of the Pyramids, all those kind of things, and eventually Napoleon has to escape and try to get home. The thing Napoleon did was unique was that he brought with him a whole team of scientists and archaeologists. So while he loses his army and loses the battle, he brings back all this information, and he's the reason we have the Rosetta Stone, which is also the reason we can read hieroglyphics today. And so his army was very different. It wasn't just an army built on destroying stuff. It was an army built on learning and being part of what is present there in the country. And so, Napoleon leaves the army. We sees the last revolution happening, and the Thermidor reaction comes home. And we see where Europe is. Obviously, the French Republic, they gained a lot of areas with, Napoleon being in charge of those kind of things. And Napoleon is brought in 1799 by the Directory, by the Republican government of this struggling group so far. And he is made the first consul of France. So it's really, in a way, kind of called a consulate. He walks in and takes over those groups. So he is... kind of term council. Now, obviously, we have this group here, and we talk about Louis XIV as a guy who models himself after the god Apollo. Well, Napoleon models himself after Julius Caesar, down to his dress, down to his symbols, all that kind of stuff. He used those ideas. So, essentially, when he proclaimed himself first consul, same exact thing that Julius Caesar did, he got rid of, the elected assembly. So that whole group that had been elected republic, bye-bye, there they go. And instead he has a Senate. Follow up that up becoming consul for life, and later on, eventually making himself emperor as he aligns himself to the Catholic Church. Now, look at the symbol on the bottom left down here. You can see right here, all these kind of things definitely relate to Rome. The eagle, the laurel wreath, all those kind of things here. You're going to see a lot of relationship from Napoleon and himself to Julius Caesar. Now, there are a lot of different things we have here in the consul. It's kind of hard to understand, but you have the council of state, which are essentially the cabinet to Napoleon, his appointed senate that he has to help him out. They propose the laws, suggest the laws, and they also serve as a court to Napoleon. You have a tribunate who's there as another group that they will debate the laws. They have no chance to vote, simply debate in terms of showing arguments back and forth. You have a legislature that was brought in, that was voted on laws, but never had a chance to discuss the debate. They were simply looking at what the tribunate voted, debated, and then they voted. And then lastly, your Senate, a direct review and veto legislation being appointed by Napoleon. It's a weird kind of government, but it's very much based off of the old Roman Republic. Now Napoleon's that kind of guy who is a very interesting dude. He's some people argue he's even an enlightened monarch, and he's more of an enlightened type guy than maybe they had in France for that. Remember, France had economic issues from the very start of the revolution. One of the things that Napoleon does is create the Banque de France. He makes his own a national bank of France, which is now able to borrow, lend money, etc., print money, coin money, something that the revolutionary government hadn't really been able to do yet. They'd printed off and paid money, but they never had a chance to actually have a central bank like the United States does to borrow money, loan money, have a treasury, and mint. Eventually, we had what's called the Concordat of 1801. The Concordat essentially is a way to heal the divisions of the church. Remember, the revolution definitely tore at the church and at the people. And we know religion tends to destroy revolutions around here. And he wants to heal that issue. So he actually reaches out to the Pope and stuff, and the constitutional clergy and the confiscation of property, all that kind of stuff. And he wants to use the clergy way to help support his regime. Instead of dividing the church out of here and kind of pushing the church out with like temples of supreme being and temples of reason, all that kind of stuff, invite the church in, use the church to help legitimize his rule. And so the Concordat basically says that now Catholicism will be the religion of the majority of Frenchmen. Majority, it says. You can be anything you want. There was toleration existing here underneath the rule of Napoleon, but the majority of France was going to be Catholic. Now, the Pope had to accept that church lands lost in the Revolution days weren't coming back, right? But that bishops, instead of responding to the church, they had to be subservient to Napoleon and answer to Napoleon as the regime instead of to the Pope. And essentially, Pope Pius VII, the Pope at this time, said, I'm not signing that. And the biggest issue was right down here in terms of the bishops being subservient to the regime. And so Napoleon, who controlled most of Italy at this point, so he took it over, has the Pope brought to France, arrests him, put him on house arrest until he eventually signs the Concordat of 1801, and essentially forces him to do that. Education-wise, you see a lot of Enlightenment ideas coming through Napoleon here. The Lycée system is based off the ideas of Aristotle, the Lyceum. And it's education reform. So he essentially said, we need really smart people. We got to find really smart people to help run our country because dumb people aren't going to do much for us. And so it was lycees were created as a way to make sure the most important, most intelligent people had a chance for education. So not that they'd be smart, but so they could help out the country, and they could be a better part of the country and help the country out and create a better country for everybody. You people had to pay tuition and that kind of stuff, but there was financial benefits, almost like student loans ish, if you will, from the government, those who were poor. And so, Enlightenment ideas popping all over here, okay? The lycees were supposed to create a better government, smarter government, and better bureaucrats. Now, nobility is always an issue, right? And so what Napoleon created something called the Legion of Honor. They recognized nobility, but creating a merit system of 5 levels. Essentially saying if you want to be the top level, you need to attain that level through your service to the country. And so he makes so that as a noble, you don't just get things handed to you, you have to earn them. If you want to make your way up this merit system, you have to do service to the country, through the military, through government, through all that kind of stuff, as a way to actually earn your way into the government versus being a noble and being put in there. And so there's 5 systems of nobility that Napoleon places on his people as well. In 1804 comes one of the biggest things that he does, and we should have this in your notes, is the Code Napoleon. Something we're going to study a little bit and look at in class, hopefully if we have time. And it takes civil law and divides it into certain areas, mostly personal status, who you are, right, that kind of stuff, property, and the acquisition of property. And then here is to reform the French legal code and make sure the legal code of France actually met with what the revolution was saying: liberty, equality, fraternity. And it creates this brand new law code for France. So here we see the painting of Napoleon. Here he's with a guy in his law code, kind of putting that law code on par with God, all those kind of things. And by using this Code Napoleon, we'll go through more in class later on what it says and what it does, create more equal ideas of property, how you get things. It essentially get rid of feudal property relations. So all these people who used to have these feudal lands and stuff gets away, because the Code Napoleon was not only implemented in France, it was implemented in all areas. And as we see the last little feudal parts of Europe start sweeping away as part of this. Now, part of this idea too is Haitian independence. Now, one thing Napoleon did that was kind of awkward is that underneath the Reign of Terror, underneath the public safety, slavery had been abolished in all areas of the French Empire. Well, Napoleon wasn't a big fan of that. While the feudal thing was there and all kind of stuff. Napoleon still believed in slavery and said, hey, listen, slaves, why don't you guys come back and all that kind of stuff and, bring slavery back, which did not go very well. So Toussaint Louverture is really one of the guys who leads the slave revolt in Haiti against the French, and the French actually end up losing this war. So they actually defeat Napoleon because he's too busy fighting everywhere else, and Haiti becomes an independent country based off this. And that's because the slave revolt happens after they said, yeah, we're going to be slaves, and they're not slaves anymore. And so the whole thing kind of comes back that way. Now, obviously, Napoleon fights a lot of wars. We'll talk about his wars later on. But one of the ways he's going to try and fix the money problem is by selling parts of the empire off. And so one of the parts he chooses to sell is Louisiana Purchase. And Louisiana Purchase is what gives the United States essentially half a contiguous territory of the lower 48. And he sells this for $15 million American. $50 million American as a way to make sure he can, keep funding his programs and keep his country rolling. Now, eventually, Napoleon names himself emperor. And emperor in 1804 under the big ceremony with the Pope and all that kind of stuff. And his wife was the Empress Josephine, Austrian by birth, very tall, very beautiful, all this kind of thing. Loved him very, very much. And you kind of see the trappings of Napoleon's palace and all those kind of things. Here we see the coronation, December 2nd, 1804, as you see Napoleon being coronated. He was coronated by the Pope. Not saying being coronated by people or that kind of stuff, but it's a religious type idea. And so just like Charlemagne before him, he is being coronated and relates this whole idea of being a French emperor to the Pope here. So you can see it happening with the Pope and being coronated, all kind of stuff. Big deal. Here's Napoleon's throne. You kind of see those Julius Caesar inspired pieces on here. Here's Napoleon's boudoir. Very short bed. Okay. And a big part of Napoleon was this idea of an imperial image. And we kind of see what we call now the neoclassical period, where the idea of Roman art styles come back because he had this crazy Julius Caesar impression. So we see Roman style statue, the crazy, creepy, blanked out eyes, right? And that kind of realism we see in Roman artwork. We see Roman style coins with his face on them. Just like we saw with Julius Caesar. You have the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, created just like the Arch of Constantine, and how triumphant Roman emperors and generals and consuls were given triumphal arches, and his Arc de Triomphe created in France as a way to honor himself as the great emperor and as a great ruler. We kind of see the paintings and everything painted in this Roman-esque style. So you see, Josephine reclining here in this empire style in terms of the old kind of Roman deal. We see even in his tomb here where he has the dome built like the Romans did as well, with all beautifully painted. And here's what we're going to talk about, more along with your textbook and some activities we're going to do in class. But does his style and government? What does it tell you about him and his reign? What does it tell you about them? Okay, and I want you to think about this question: is he an enlightened person? Is he Machiavellian? And how do you think art may or may have changed at this time from what was before? Which are all things we'll talk about, put together Monday as we do a few little activities and lessons, getting ready to see Napoleon off. We'll worry about the military part of it in class. We'll do that later on, and we'll try to get this all taken care of and finished up. Thank you very much for your time, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it. Thank you for making sure you take care of all your business. I appreciate it very much.